aren't involved in writing or research. Conferences I go to, a big one is the International Forum on Active Learning Classrooms. I've co-authored a book which is a guide to teaching in active learning classrooms. So that's a big one. I'm presenting 2 presentations there. Another big one is the POD, Professional Organizational Developers. I don't know what it stands for. So that's a big national meeting that people in our field go to. Then one's a local meeting, which is the Minnesota Summit on e-learning technology, academic technology. And I have carved out this particular job based on what I enjoy and my strengths, and so it's pretty much 100% of what I like to do.
I have a question, but it's not actually for the panel. It's more of an audience poll because I'm curious about who's in the room. Like, who are the grad students, the postdocs, who's doing a PhD in education, who's doing one in science, just because I think that might help the questions that I'm thinking of asking.
Postdocs. I'm not, I'm just telling you. Graduate students. Okay. And then who is getting their PhD or master's in a like hard discipline like biology or, and then what about DBER? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, I had a question for Jeff. You said that you can split it equally, doing 15 hours a week in the spring and the fall. Does that affect your pay, or is that something more of like adjunct where the number of hours you have affects the pay?
If you were a part-time instructor and you were teaching more hours one quarter or another, you get more pay that quarter. So yeah, if you're a part-timer, then your pay is based on the number of hours you're teaching at that moment. As a contracted, tenured, full-time person, it does not affect it. I get the same monthly. I'm on a 10-month contract. I can teach during the summer if I want to, to fill in the other 2 months. But I'm on a 10-month contract, and I get the same amount each of those 10 months, regardless of the number of hours I teach, as long as over the entire year I make up. There's this wiggle room, and it has to be 100% load, or it can be between like 0.98 and 1.03 or something. Like there's this range that I have to hit, right? But as long as I'm within that range of a full-time load, then I get the same amount every quarter. Of course, then a lot of other things affect that too, which is that I have these 2 grants, and I do have some course release from one of those grants, and so that affects the amount of time I teach, but it doesn't affect my pay. The other grant, I don't have course release, but I get paid for, and so that one doesn't affect the number of hours, whereas the release does, but that one affects my pay, or I actually get more pay, but I just use that as summer pay. So I guess your main question is, if you're a full-time tenure track or tenure instructor, then you get the same amount every month regardless of the number of hours you teach. If you're part-time, then it's not the case.
I want to ask this one because it came up several times in our survey. So what are the job options in your guys' field for somebody graduating with a PhD in science education or related subject? What kind of expertise do you think they need, and is a postdoc necessary?
I actually start, that's okay. We actually are hiring right now for a position in our center, and I can put up a link. I made a Z link to it, z.umn.edu/CEI position, and PhD is preferred, or ABD. One of the people who interviewed was ABD. Master's is required with so many years of experience. Postdoc, absolutely not required.
So from the R1 perspective, so a lot of the if you're in biology or chemistry or physics and you want to be hired to do education research there, oftentimes they look more favorably on having a PhD in that discipline. They feel that there's something special about having a biology PhD, and if you have a biology ed or science ed, that's not the same thing, and you're different and they don't like different. But there are, so my position, or the individuals are spread throughout the campus, and so we had someone hired in one of our engineering departments who has an engineering education, PhD, and many of our colleagues in the same position don't. They're strictly engineers. So the options are available, but you do need a more progressive department often to accept science ed as a real degree. But also in the sense of centers, there are a lot of centers opening, and centers seem to be expanding in terms of teaching learning centers. So I think there are a lot of opportunities there as well. And so there's a mix of things that R1 campus is, but it may be a little harder to get into a discipline department if you don't have that disciplines PhD.
Yeah, sure.
We have a mix of people. Primarily, a lot of our folks have PhDs in a natural science. I think there are only 2 of us that have PhDs in education. And postdocs are variable. Some people spent time in postdocs, others didn't. I think that the way the hiring has been for the most part for us is that we really look for entrepreneurial people. So passion is probably the most important thing if you're really interested in doing this kind of work. You know, a lot of people sort of did things on the side that sort of showed evidence of that passion and not necessarily anything that happened in their formal education. And also just like not being a jerk. So being a nice person, being someone that people really want to work with goes really far, and it's harder to find sometimes.
Yeah, I would say in the informal science education space, I think building a portfolio of experience is what's really important. So that's whether that's as a graduate student, you're demonstrating that you're taking part in public engagement activities, that you have had experience leading those activities. Those are all, and that you can work with different audiences and diverse audiences. I think that's more important than sort of formal training. I didn't do a postdoc after I finished my PhD, but I've sort of, you know, taken different sort of turns in my career path that have allowed me to sort of build up a suite of experiences that prepared me to be where I am today. And I'll also say that increasingly, I think universities are investing in bridge positions because they're recognizing that for the R1 scientists to be successful in getting grants, that they may not have the connections or the expertise to implement and design those broader impacts pieces. And so increasingly you are seeing universities creating an Office of Broader Impacts or something or an Office of Community Engagement. Someone who can speak the science, have credibility with the scientists, but then also build connections to communities and to audiences. And I'm seeing sort of an uptick in that. Now, those jobs can be hard to find, and sometimes it's if you're in the right place at the right time and you know people, and so that's where I think sort of networking and coming to things like this and connecting with other people and understanding, just making those connections is increasingly important. There was one other thing that I was gonna say, I don't remember. That's why it'll come to me.
So I actually printed out our most recent job announcement from Foothill College, so that'll be one of my handouts for you, so you can actually see what a job announcement looks like and what it asks for and the preferred qualifications. I also tried to write down what is actually what we're looking for. Sometimes it's hard to interpret from this very dry job announcement to what really. I've been on 13 or so, I think 13 or 14 at last count hiring committees in various departments, even across arts and humanities and everything. And so I tried to actually write down. I'm actually just going to read because I tried to think about it, and I said that the things that I see coming up more and more that are really desired features for folks is a deep passion for diversity, inclusion, and equity in higher education, and the ability to translate that passion into classroom practices. So when that person comes into an interview, or even in their cover letter or whatever, it clearly has a coming from the heart. They're speaking from the heart connection to understanding the experience of marginalization in our world, whether they themselves have experienced that as somebody from a background that maybe would traditionally experience those things, or have somehow gotten to understand that through one way or another. So it's some sort of really heartfelt, obvious personal connection to diversity, inclusion, and equity. And then to take that the next step and say, and this is how it looks in my classroom, and this is how it looks with my student, that's just really powerful to pair that up. Experience developing and implementing evidence-based practices, and so being able to talk about best practices and how you implement them, even outside of just equity and diversity practices, is really compelling. And then past experience in community colleges as either a student or an instructor. And so I think that there's a lot of, you can almost call it a bias, and maybe it's a good bias or a bad bias, I don't know, it's probably bad in some ways, but I've just noticed this on the committees I've been on, that if somebody's never set foot in a community college before, as experienced as they may be, there's always a little bit of skepticism, I think, of those applications. And there's an impression that the community colleges are just a little bit different. And like, if you haven't been on a campus before, are you really sure you want to do this as a full-timer? As a part-timer, of course, we welcome you. We love you to come. We always need part-timers desperately, so I'm mostly talking about tenure-track positions now. But just having had that even one class you taught, or that you were a community college student, like some connection is really powerful. And in terms of degree, I mean, as it says in the application here, a postdoc is not required because a PhD is not required. And so in my department, in terms of the full-timers, we're about half PhD folks, half master's folks. And I frankly have to be strategic sometimes because I can lose status in certain places by admitting that I have a master's degree, not a PhD. And so I don't think that this is one of those environments, but I'm just saying, like, you know, there's places where that loses me status as a biology education researcher. But I feel like I'm still very productive, and I've brought in millions of dollars of grants and published frequently, and so I feel good about what I'm doing. But yeah, so obviously postdoc is not required.